Hey there, friends. Welcome to this very special garden tour. It is the end of July, which means harvests are plenty. There's a lot of things that I've learned so far that we're going to go over. There's a lot of mistakes that I've made that I will try to avoid in the future. And there's also things that I've learned that I will not be doing for the spring and that I will be doing for this fall. I almost said fall semester, for this fall growing season. So let's get into it. So we're going to start in bed one of my garden. I don't know, sometimes I call the other side bed one. That's not important. We're going to start on this side of the garden, and let me show you the sugar snap peas. So I've let these peas go to maturity and then some, right? These are the old age of the plant. You can see that it's clearly dying. But what I wanted to show you here is this. So what I've done here, and what I've done inside, is if you crack these open, these are going to be seed for next year, right? So there's no need to buy seeds. And as you can tell, there's a lot of them. So what I would do with this is put it on a paper plate and then let it wait for it to be really hard and dry. So you can tell it's getting wrinkly like a pruny thumb. And what this means is it's drying out. It's beginning to dry out. It still needs a couple more days. And what I intend to do with these is plant them for pea shoots, not only in the spring, but actually some soon. Another thing that I want to do is plant these in beds where I feel like the plants haven't been performing well because even the soil just doesn't look very nice. And why I want to do that is because peas are legumes and they're nitrogen fixing. So I'm going to set these aside for later. Just put those there. They're nitrogen fixing, and what that means is that it's going to pull nitrogen out of the air and store it in little sacs beneath the soil. And then once the plant dies, like it is here, we can cut that back. And when you do go to remove all of this plant material that you have no longer a use for, resist the urge to yank it out of the ground. So what I have here is a retractable saw, and what I'm going to do is simply get as close to the base as I can and cut it there, leaving those nodules in the ground for them to release the nitrogen for the next crop. Another thing that I'm doing here is, as you can see, here's a very ugly plant. From the onset, this plant was struggling with disease. I just left it because that's okay. I actually kind of want this. And the reason I want to see disease in plants is because that's natural. And as you can see right next to it, let me move this plant out of the way, this also plagued with disease and died back. But look at this plant. Right next to a plant plagued by disease, yet it's healthy all the way up. And that's a good sign. And what that tells me is that this plant may just be stronger, but it may have some resilience to this particular pest, leaf spot, or whatever it was. So what I'm doing is I'm growing a cucumber for seed. Now, if you can see this, this is a very large cucumber, and it's already past the point where I would harvest it for consuming. Now, if you look here, it's starting to get pale, and that's what you want when you're saving seed for next year. This cucumber is going to get even uglier. It's going to get like fat and yellow and orange. Not a good look, but it's a good look for saving seed. So that's gonna hang tight. This one, for example, this has produced everything that it is going to produce. This is still a good one. It looks ugly. But it's still good. I'm going to eat that and enjoy that. So same concept here. Don't pull them out because those roots will decompose and provide nutrients for the next generation of planting. So same thing here. Very simple. And there we have it. This one is, yeah, this one's going down too. Right? And now what I'll do here is plant, I'll rip these out. And in its place, I'm going to be planting lettuce. I have Missoula or Mizuna. I mispronounce it all the time. I gotta learn it, but it's like an arugula type of Asian leafy green. And some other winter crops will go here maybe in 3 to 4 weeks. Lettuces too. So let's go down this area here. Just a brief interruption. Thanks for watching. If you found this video useful so far, like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps, and I look forward to giving you updates along this whole growing season. We've got some tomatoes. I actually, thinking back to it, I wish I had planted more tomatoes, just even more of a variety. Here I've got 3 varieties, 2 of which have been fruitful. The third I'm not going to grow anymore. It was called Jet, and I'm not even sure I have tomatoes growing from it. But what I have been impressed with is this variety called Auriga. It is a golden orange tomato that produce tomatoes about this size. You can see comparison with my fingernail. And I'm very happy with it. I've already got seeds saving for these, and what I'm doing here is as they mature, they get a little bit soft normally. I'll pick them and let them get fully ripe, and so that they're like a bright orange. I'll extract the seed and then let them soak in water for a few days. And what that's going to do is it's going to remove the film that's on the seeds right now. So evolution has designed seeds that they have a film around them to prevent them from sprouting inside the tomato. Now what we want to do with soaking them in water for a few days is remove that film via fermentation. So this stuff really stinks. It's a bad smelling juice. But it is very important for getting viable seed for next year. We also have here Black Beauty. It's a purple variety that I've got from Rare Seeds. And for a while, I wasn't sure how to tell if it was ripe. And now I was just patient, and I have learned. As you can see here, there are green spots all over. And when they become ripe, the green patches turn pink purple, like we can see here. So this is starting to ripen. I haven't tasted these yet, but from what I can tell, the reviews say that it is very sweet. Overall, I'm excited about this variety, and will be harvesting the seed and planting them again next year. Here we have 2 types of carrots. You can see a clear delineation between the varieties. We have Mokum, which is a sweet, thin orange carrot, right in front of me here. And we also have the black carrot from Rare Seeds. I did a video on this one maybe a month ago, 2 months maybe, on my review. Now, all of the ones that I had grown previously had bolted, all except for 6. We're going to go into that later. But I decided to give it another shot, and I'm glad I did, because these are growing extraordinarily well, even in comparison. The reason these are so small, I think it's because of my squash, which has been a source of aggravation for me for the past few weeks as they've been getting out of hand. I won't do this again. This is a mess. You can see there's lack of nutrients. That looks like a nitrogen deficiency, because all of those nutrients are being soaked up by the squash, and I think that these carrots are suffering by being neighbors of these plants. But back to this, I'm excited to see how these carrots mature and grow and taste. Those are probably 2 or 3 weeks away from being harvested, and I can't wait. So here are the peppers, and I'm excited about the peppers too because they're doing extraordinarily well. There's no diseases that I can tell. There's some insect pests, as you can see here, caterpillars chewing on the leaves or whatnot, but that's okay. Ultimately, these plants are very healthy, and I'm excited about growing this new variety. These are Portuguese pepper. The cages are doing very well also. There's, however, one change that I will be making at the end of the season or throughout, and that is making some of these holes a bit larger. That way, I mean, I can fit my hand in here to prune or whatever the case may be, but it would be nicer to have a little bit more space. This is not one plant. It is 4 plants all in one area. And I mean, I'm happy with it. Same thing with these. These are 4 plants, 2 or 3 different varieties. Here we see a habanero. The habaneros are the last to really start to ripen. If you can see here, the little tiny habaneros growing in there, those are going to be hot. Sometimes habaneros are a little too hot for me to actually enjoy, although occasionally I do like spicy foods. We've got Thai peppers here. These are doing excellent. Let's see, let's find some good ones even here. There's one. There we go. That's a good angle. So those will start to redden and ripen pretty soon. We've got banana peppers on this side. As they mature, they get lighter and lighter. And I can see one in there that I might pick later on today. It's almost like a faint pale yellow as opposed to these bright green. I see that's starting to get a little bit pale yellow. Here we've got some more Thai chilies and jalapenos way at the end over there. There is a lot to see here, and this is probably one of the biggest regrets that I have of this growing season. And the squash plants took over. And I mean, I've been cutting them back to make sure that if I hadn't, there'd be this whole area here. They would take over half of the garden. And they're a variety, 2 varieties of, well, it's acorn squash and pumpkin. So the acorn squash, I harvested the seeds I took from a grocery store squash. And I can tell that they're a hybrid because 2 plants are showing wildly different fruit. There's an elongated squash that I believe came from a delicata, a bush delicata squash, crossed with a round variety. The other vegetable fruit is very round. So I think maybe a honey bear squash variety. I think that the makers of that squash bred those 2 lines together, and that's what we're seeing here. I'm going to have plenty of squash come maybe a month from now as the leaves really start to die back. So if we look at this plot here, you can see the bees getting at the corn, but overall, the corn looks very malnourished. So you can see it's like a light pale green, a light yellow, and in the middle of that whole mess, even the squash is starting to look yellow. I think the squash absorbed a lot of that nutrients and is now just completely taken away the nitrogen because they're just so hungry. Another thing that I was hoping or trying out with this corn is that they would grow together just fine. And I got the technique from the 3 sisters. This is a growing technique from the Native Americans who colonized this area around the time of the Pilgrims in the 1600s. But what this is lacking is that I didn't grow beans. Beans, like the peas, are nitrogen fixers. So the reason that these might not be doing so well is because I don't have a nitrogen fixer along here. I also didn't let the corn grow first. So early in the corn's life, there was a game of catch-up, trying to grow up and over the squash that quickly shaded the ground underneath it. Okay, in this plot here, I have purple sprouting broccoli, and it looks like there's a lot of pest pressure. I'm looking here. There's a bundle of eggs. I'll show you on camera, to my left or something. And there's even white eggs here, so these are being attacked by a multitude of pests. Later on today, after filming, I'm going to be going through here and removing those eggs, the ones that are visible, and hopefully give these plants the best chance at growing and surviving the winter. Because in the spring, early before any other harvest, I should start to see small little purple florets of broccoli form and sprout in the spring months. Here we see celery. This celery, you can see here, is it's reached the maturity point of the celery. So today or tomorrow, I'm going to be cutting these at the base and enjoying the celery. This is my first time growing celery, and I'm happy with it. They're not as tall. The stalks aren't as tall and as wide as typical grocery store celery. Maybe it's because it's an heirloom. Maybe I didn't grow it properly. It's my first time. But overall, the flavor and the aroma of this celery is unmatched. It is light years better than the grocery store variety. And maybe that's because the grocery store variety was bred that way. It's bred to be large stalks, perfect for dunking in blue cheese. Here we've got the remnants of beets. I left these in the ground and did not harvest them because they were a little bit smaller. Because they were a little bit smaller, now they're maturing, and I will harvest these pretty soon. In its spot, I already have kohlrabi, turnips, and beets ready for transplanting, which is something that I'm going to do later on today. The weather's perfect. The sun isn't beating down. It's finally cool. It's been a break for this unrelentless heat. Every day seems like it's been in the 90s since June, and we're already kind of creeping into August now. On this side, we've got some flowering lettuce. So this is beginning its flowering cycle, but hasn't really started flowering yet, or at least not developed as these are. So these I'm planning on saving seed for this lettuce. And what's important to know about lettuce is that it is self-pollinating. So you don't need multiple plants in order to get viable seed. Not like the case with broccoli or kale, beets. It's just like peas or cucumbers, tomatoes, like we discussed earlier. You don't need multiple plants in order to get viable seed for saving. Here is the same thing. Now, I'm not going to use these. These two lettuce plants happen to be a lot smaller, less vigorous as these. So I don't need all of that seed. I'm not saving seed to plant for a village. All right, so I'm going to cut these back. We also have some parsley here, and this parsley is doing very well. I think this will be just fine, not only through the fall, but the winter as well. You can see 3 random plantings that I had put in earlier. And it's random because earlier in the year, I had harvested some carrots that were prematurely bolting. And as I got rid of that, it made holes that I wanted to utilize, and I just put parsley there. And here we have it. Next to the parsley, we've got some pretty ravaged red Russian kale. Now the same thing, these are the brassicas. This year has been awful for brassica pests. First it was the cabbage root fly that wouldn't even let me grow plants. Now it's some sort of moth. I think it's probably these things flying around, and caterpillars. Later on, as soon as the video's done, I'm going to go through here and remove the eggs that are building up. And we can see the eggs closer here. Take a look at this. So I pulled this off one of the leaves earlier. Now look at all those eggs. I'm assuming those are eggs from a moth. I'll investigate that later, but those are all going to hatch and into caterpillars or some sort of bug larva that's going to decimate my kale. I want my kale to be healthy, so I'm going to spend some extra time in going through leaf by leaf and removing those pests. Now this is for the camera lady, my beautiful wife. She's standing on a bed of crops. A bed of crops that I plan on kind of raking over anyway. So let's look at them. You're still filming. You're still filming, right?
I am.
Good. So here we've got basically seeds that I sowed into the wrong type of soil, and I'll show a footage of the soil that I used earlier. It just wasn't ideal. I tried sifting it. I tried leaving it as is, and none of them did well. The sifted soil was far too compact, and the plants ultimately failed. I brought them out here as a last-ditch effort to see if they would recover, and they did, except for that one that got stepped on. And this one, too, that was very close. So these are a mix of lettuce, turnips, kohlrabi, but they're so scattered. Like this is weeds. That may have been a kohlrabi, but it's okay, because what I plan on doing is kind of raking this back and considering it a failure and replanting with other kohlrabi, turnip, and beet plants that I have already growing inside, ready for transplanting. Over here, we've got my potato experiment. So these are two experiments that I'm excited about as well. Normally, people do not plant potatoes in July, and these I planted 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, and they're doing well. I mean, the leaves aren't as lush as we can see from my June or even the May tour, but they're doing okay. They don't seem plagued with pestilence. Maybe this is just the particular variety of early potato that I planted. They're a red potato with a white center. They mature very quickly in early spring, and my goal for planting them now is that I can harvest them around the time of first frost, maybe October, late October, and save those potatoes over the winter for an early seed spring planting. That's just my goal, to see if I can save a variety of potato over the winter. And if I had harvested, or I should say, the farmer that I bought these potatoes off of harvested them in early May. There's no way that I would be able to take those May potatoes and carry them through the winter and plant them in the early spring. So that's my goal here. If I don't get giant, beautiful, edible potatoes, that's all right. It wasn't really my goal to begin with. Now, at the very end here, this is the second phase of my carrot breeding program. These are purple carrots that were bolt hardy. These did not bolt along with the other 200 carrots that I planted in the beginning of the season, back in February, March, when I direct sowed them. Maybe that those carrots just weren't preferable, or they didn't prefer growing in those conditions. They prefer being planted later in the year, just like those carrots that I showed you earlier. However, these carrots showed that bolt hardiness, which is interesting to me, because there's always genetic diversity among plants. That's how carrots evolved to being purple in the first place. So what I intend to do is, with these particular varieties, hopefully they'll flower by the end of the season and produce seed within this population. Usually it's tough to breed carrots because they cross-pollinate with other varieties of wild carrot that you don't want their genes in your carrots. This isn't really going to be an issue, because all of those other carrot varieties that are growing in the wild are already seeding now. So these will be out of season for cross-pollinating. And you can start to see 1, 2, 4, and 6 are already starting the growth phase. Lastly, I want to talk about the cilantro that have already seeded, as well as the onion that have already started to seed. As you can see here, now for this, don't point at anything. I'm gonna put in a video.
Okay.
So as you can see in this clip, this is what the onion seeds look like as they're maturing, or the flower looks as it's maturing. So what I'm going to do after this video is clip these flower heads off and hang them upside down. If we look deeper inside these flowers, we're going to see these little black seeds. Those are going to be the seeds that I plan on planting and sowing in December. Even maybe now, I might plant them for a fall, spring onion harvest. Cilantro plants, these are easy to save seed for too. As you can see here, the flowers turn into the small cilantro, coriander seed that start out green and then they turn brown. Once they've turned brown, you can simply pull them off the plant, put them on a plate, and let them fully dry for an autumn or spring planting. Thanks for watching this July tour. I was very excited for this one. I hope you found some value. And if you did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more of the same, more new breeding projects and harvesting and seed savings. I'm excited that you're here. Without you, this channel would be a tree that falls in the forest unwitnessed. So thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.